And if the world of cryptocurrency is where you see your possibilities, then the Bahamas has a place for you.
Sun, sand, sea, and crypto. It's pegged as the next major deposit in the country's wallet as a new, lucrative global connection prepares to take off.
Today, the arrival and presence of FTX underscores the readiness of the Bahamas to be a home for global leaders in the crypto space. Back in 2019, our central bank launched the sand dollar, the world's first digital currency. And just last week, my government launched a policy white paper outlining the future of digital assets in the Bahamas. The Bahamas is not only open and ready for business, but moving to the forefront of this most exciting era of digital asset innovation. For generations, our people have developed a unique expertise as leading professionals in international finance services. As a result, the Bahamas has an extensive capacity of human capital positioned to assist all in the fintech space who look to do business here.
On the heels of the groundbreaking of FTX's $60 million investment in its headquarters and boutique hotel in Western New Providence, the Prime Minister is previewing the empowerment of a generation of Bahamians.
In our policy white paper, you'll also note the commitment of my government to provide the highest in tertiary education to Bahamians who want to be in the fintech and cryptocurrency space. The Bahamas and Bahamians all across our archipelago are ready and willing to partner with you to do business in our great country.
Keeping you in the know. This is OPM Press Now. Prime Minister Philip Davis continues to keep the climate change campaign at the global forefront. Addressing delegates at the Caribbean Renewable Energy Forum in Miami Wednesday, he reinforced the message of the united front to get the region's most urgent message across.
In many ways, a region in crisis. Just as the pandemic restrictions ease, inflationary pressures threaten our recovery. Those who live in the Caribbean, the climate crisis is not in the future. It is very much underway. It is now.
The forum comes as the transatlantic hurricane season looms, memories of devastating Hurricane Dorian hovering over its lingering social and economic impact.
More than half of my country's death can be traced directly to the harm caused by hurricanes. Friends across our region, we share the same goals. We need to build economic and climate resilience in our countries. That means energy security and a transition to renewable energy. It means protecting our forests and seas. It means access to more innovative financing mechanisms and debt solutions that recognize that those who contribute the least to carbon emissions are suffering the most from the world's failure to move quickly enough.
Touting proposed legislation to govern the sale of carbon credits and the country's commitment to drawing at least 30% of its energy from renewable sources by 2030, Prime Minister Davis left delegates with this admonition.
Let's keep reminding the world that time is up and promises are not the same as action. Let's keep pushing for more financing for renewables and on better terms.
Keeping you in the know, this is OPM Press Now.
those joining us via the stream. It is a pleasure to welcome you to the Office of the Prime Minister's weekly press briefing. We have an exciting day planned. It's going to be brief, as we know that it is a Friday, and happy Friday to all of you. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Press Secretary Clint Watson, who will introduce our speaker for today.
Good morning, colleagues. Good to have you again for another week as we update the nation on what's happening in the Office of the Prime Minister and, of course, the government of the Bahamas. It's indeed happy to have all of you joining us with us for another week. Today we're going to focus on talking about several important meetings that the Minister responsible for Economic Affairs would have led a team of leaders to in Washington, D.C. last week, and what that means for the Bahamas, giving an update on where we stand financially, the new reports that are due to come out next week. He's going to preview what those reports will show and what they will say about the country's financial status. And so we're going to talk to him a bit about that and new streams of revenue and what that means for the Bahamas. So we're going to begin there. We have a number of announcements to give to you from Prime Minister this morning. And of course, some exciting vendors to highlight and an industry that's bouncing back. We're going to talk a bit about that. So quite a bit to get to today. So let's begin, first of all, with the Minister of Economic Affairs, Senator the Honorable Michael Alcides, who'll come and give us an update on our finances.
Thank you very much, Mr. Watson. Good morning, everybody. Good morning to the public who's watching on the stream. As Mr. Watson said, last week we were in attendance at the spring meetings of the IMF and the World Bank, and it was our intention to, after several years, about 2 years of virtual meetings, to attend the meetings in person to update the IMF as well as the World Bank, other financial institutions, other multilateral institutions, about the progress that the Bahamas has been experiencing in its economic growth as we continue to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. And so that gave us an opportunity to engage in person, and it also gave us, as a new administration, to reinforce our commitment to all of the tenets of fiscal prudence and transparency, et cetera, prudent management, gave us an opportunity to once again thank the IMF, World Bank, for assisting the Bahamas in the middle of the pandemic by providing credit to us. The prognosis for the economic recovery appears good. The World Bank is forecasting that the economy will grow by 8% this year, and that is up from a forecast of 6%, 8% this year, and just over 4% next year. We were able to engage with a number of financial institutions to apprise them of our progress in terms of our economic performance and the performance of the financials. And generally speaking, it was very positive exchanges with all the meetings that we had. In terms of themes coming out of the meeting, of course, everybody is concerned about the levels of inflation that are impacting economies around the world, and as well, the issue of climate change was high on the agenda, and how countries, particularly small, vulnerable countries like ourselves, are impacted, and what we can do to mitigate and minimize and combat the effects of climate change. What did come out of the meetings was a commitment by all of these institutions to assist countries, whether it be in providing expertise, funding to conduct research, and convening of meetings, et cetera, of the various countries, so that we can have a coordinated approach to climate change. The issue of carbon financing was also high on the agenda. And it's a very exciting proposition for us here in the Bahamas. As you know, we are actively pursuing, the carbon limitation bill was just passed in the House of Assembly yesterday, I think it was, yesterday. And it provides a tremendous opportunity for us to use the fact that we have had significant portions of our country conserved as marine protected areas. These areas act as what they call carbon sinks, and there's an opportunity after we have mapped out and verified and re-verified and had it verified by international organizations, where we can have an opportunity to monetize, that is, to get revenue from this. And our view is that we don't want to get a one-time revenue payment. We want to be able to continually be able to annually realize revenue from this. And so the discussion is, how do we put it on an exchange, et cetera. So very exciting times. And the good thing is it's high on the global agenda, and there's going to be assistance available for us as we exploit that. So all in all, very, very positive meetings, and we look forward to continuing that momentum in economic performance as we go forward. Next week, we will be releasing the third quarter fiscal performance, which again continues to show its data on the government's financial performance and the performance of the budget for the first 9 months of the year. As you know, we are rapidly approaching the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th. So we'll have a new budget presented to Parliament on the 25th of May, which is just over 3 weeks. And so and that'll be for 2022, 2023. Right now, we are coming to the end of this fiscal year. And some highlights that you expect to see: revenues continue to perform well. We are at $1.8 billion, which is 78% of the target. So if we think that by June we want to get 100% of our target, at the end of March we were at 78%. So we're slightly ahead. You should be at 3/4 of the way. You should be 3/4 of your target. So it should be 75. We're at 78. Just to give some comparison. So we're trending ahead in terms of revenue. In terms of expenditure, we're slightly down from our target, 3% down. And in terms of the deficit, it's currently showing just under $345 million for the first 9 months, and we had forecasted 850 for the entire year. So we're ahead of schedule because mostly the revenue is performing very well, and we are so far have been able to keep a fairly good rein on the expenditure. The year isn't over yet, and we have 2 months, and the payments, the revenue and the payments, they're not always equally distributed. So, we're not necessarily going to end at these figures, but I think it's safe to say we'll come in ahead of what we had projected last October when we presented the supplementary budget, and that is because the economy has continued to perform very well. In terms of VAT collections, I know one question has been, we dropped the rate from 12% to 10%. What would be the impact? So far, for the first 3 months, we did it on the 1st of January of this year. For the first 3 months, we're actually trending ahead of even as far back as 2019. And so we have not seen a significant drop-off. As a matter of fact, we've seen some increases, and you'll see the full report when we release it next week. So I will stop there. Those were my highlights, and I'll entertain any questions, any and all questions that the press might have.
There's been a call from some quarters for the government to eliminate VAT on breadbasket items. Mm-hmm. Is that something that the government is considering, or is it just not feasible at this time?
It's not feasible. When we did, let me go back again. When we first introduced it at 7.5%, our advice, after considerable deliberation and discussion and back and forth with the private sector, with academia, with scientists, scholars, the best policy is to have a low rate with minimal exemptions, which is what we did, and it was very effective, lauded around the world as being effective. The F&M administration came in 2018, and they made a promise that they would take it off of breadbasket items, which they did. But at the same time that they took it off of breadbasket items, in order to be able to do that, they raised the rate from 7.5% to 12%. And so I hear this call coming mostly from the political corners about, doing this because, okay, it might sound politically, it's a good political point to beat, right? But recognize that when you begin to introduce exemptions, the only way you can do it is if you pay a higher rate on everything else. And so we've studied this, we've gone back and forth. Our best advice is a lower rate, hence the 10%, lower than the 12, but with minimal exemptions because it's more efficient, all right? And if you study, and again, it's not something that we did haphazardly, this whole issue about bread basket. Bread basket is not everything you buy out of the food store. Bread basket is 22 items. So, there's this confluence that, maybe people believe that every time you go into the food store, everything is a bread basket item. No. So, for example, meat is not in the bread basket. So you're now paying 10 instead of 12. So we didn't make just to wrap it all up, this is not something that we did haphazardly. And we know it's a sensitive issue, and the politicians know it's a sensitive issue. That's why they're beating it. But they should also remind the public that when they did that change and introduced those exemptions, they raised the rate from 7.5 to 12, a 60% increase. We continue to believe, and this is backed by experience and research and modeling and everything, that the best thing to do, a single rate, minimal exemptions, and you can better target your relief to those who are most impacted.
It comes to our attention that officials would have met with gas retailers yesterday. Are you able to speak to those discussions as well as provide any insight into what initiatives are being taken to the government?
I can say this, there had been some representation from the gas station operators. They operate on a fixed margin. That's one issue that they have. They also have issues when it comes to those operators who don't own their stations, who have to, for example, pay rent, pay franchise fees, pay percentages on other things. So it's a very difficult environment for them. We met with them about a week and a half ago. We had some initial discussions. They presented a proposal to us. We went away, we crunched some numbers. We had a meeting again yesterday to further the discussions. They presented some additional proposals to the government. We are looking at ways. Prime Minister attended the meeting, and he said to them that he's committed to bring some relief to them. It's just a matter of working out how best to do it so that we actually get the relief. They presented some more proposals to us yesterday. We undertook to go and study them and come back to them with a position, hopefully to assist them. Well, the idea is to assist them effectively before we get to the budget, so in the next 2 weeks or so. I wouldn't want to, but it's just to say that, we have to be mindful of the impact on the consumer when we speak about any margin increase, the impact on the final consumer, the public. And so we're trying to figure out a way that we can bring some relief to them without negatively impacting the Bahamian public. But I would say that the spirit of the discussions was very positive, and so we undertook to go back and do some more things and come back to them and be able to wrap this up before we get to the budget.
You said earlier that the IMF had originally predicted the economy would grow by 6% this year, and now they've revised that and said 8%.
8%, World Bank.
World Bank, sorry. Are you able to say what went into factoring in a better outlook of 2%?
The increased, the very strong performance of the tourism economy. The fact that even anecdotally, I mean, when the tourism people, they can give you the actual numbers, but we're approaching levels of 2019, which was before even Dorian, so we're recovering very strongly in the tourism sector. And combined with that, with the opening of the economy, more people going back to work, so employment and domestic consumption, construction as well, but all driven by the rebound, a solid rebound in the tourism economy.
What do you say to Bahamians, when you go back to the gas retailers, you have them speaking to the press saying, gas could hit $7, $8 by summer. What do you say to Bahamians who are already concerned that I guess summer is less than a month away, that, gas prices could again hit?
Well, we hope that it doesn't. And, the prices of fuel, because around the world, they fluctuate based on, of course, supply and demand and shocks. The latest shock being the war in Ukraine. We were hopeful that there would be a speedy resolution to it. And so that source of disruption would be removed. It appears as if that might be a more protracted situation. But we're hopeful that, excuse me, the markets can adjust in terms of the producers producing more to meet the demand. But I would say I wouldn't, they're at about 6 something right now. I wouldn't, of course, anything can happen. The conflict can spread, or we can see it actually go down. But I would say to them that, I wouldn't say how to put it. I wouldn't worry now about today about, what could happen, let's say, in terms of $7 in a few months, because I can't say it can't happen, because, if the conflict spreads, for example, or there's further fallout, things can happen. But it just shows the uncertainty of the world that we live in. But I would only say that, I wouldn't worry about it, something that's happening that potentially can happen down the road, because just as it might hit 7, it might go back down if things clear up.
Last conversation that media would have had with the Prime Minister outside of the House of Assembly would have been in relation to trying to lower shipping costs for, I guess, that sector, considering the inflationary period. Where are those discussions right now?
I wasn't involved in that personally. I know the Prime Minister indicated, I did hear him say that he was in some discussions with them, and they had, progressed. I don't want to go behind that, because I really wasn't personally involved in that to be able to comment. But I'm sure Mr. Watson can undertake to get that information for the next one.
Okay, you mentioned that VAT collections are up. It's not feasible to remove it from breadbasket items. Yet consumers are saying that they're spending more at the food stores. We also spoke to the issue of price regulations. What is the government doing in terms of curtailing these prices in the stores every day? The prices seem to be fluctuating. There seem to be no regulations in place.
There are regulations in place. There are certain items that are what we call price controlled. And what price control does is it limits the amount of markup that a merchant can put on the cost on the cost for them to acquire the product. So, for example, if they buy something for $1, the most that they can mark it up is to put an additional 23 cents on it, 23%, I think the figure is. Now, what is happening around the world is that prices are going up. So even for the merchant to get that thing in their store, something might have cost him $1 to buy. Now it costs him $1.10. And so now he puts his markup not on $1, but on $1.10. What is causing things to go up? Shipping, supply chain, war. Ukraine and Russia produce or export, 30% of the wheat. So, for example, countries in Africa and in the Middle East are seeing the cost of, wheat and bread and things just skyrocket. So when we say that these things are external to us, they are, because, the markup margin goes on their cost. So if it's costing them more just to get it, when they put their markup, it will go up. And not everything is price controlled. There's a limited amount of things that are price controlled. And so, it's a hard situation. And I said before, and the situation is this. I know, we would love for the government to be able to say, well, we're taking the tax off this, we're taking it off of gas, we're taking it off this. But if we do that, we have to get the money from somewhere else. And that's just unvarnished. That's the way it is. Our debt has gone up by $2 billion in the last 2 years. If we don't earn it through taxes and revenue, we have to borrow it. All right? And I hate to be the one who have to keep saying this, because, I'm sure nobody wants to hear it, but it's just a reality. The government's fiscal health is very important because it impacts all of us. And so we are hopeful that the situation normalizes. The shipping, we understand that shipping costs have come down a bit just through natural, clearing up of the lanes. It's come down not as much as it needs to. It's not back to the levels of 2 years ago, but they're coming down. And we just, it's a hard situation. It's a difficult situation, and we're hopeful that it clears up. But when we say that the government is limited in what it can do in terms of removing taxes, that is the case, and there's no other way to say it. I just want to be totally honest, and if you ask me, you'd notice that my answer has always been consistent. That's it. That's it. We just hope that the situation normalizes.
Any other questions?
One more
No more?
question. One
Yeah.
more question. I'm just trying to understand. You mentioned that VAT is up, and I think Mr. Simon Wilson mentioned that it was up based on consumption.
It is based on consumption, yeah.
But how do you quantify consumption? The fact that you're collecting VAT based on consumption, isn't it so that Bahamian consumers are just paying more, that you would see an increase in VAT?
No. Well, they're paying more because they're consuming more, because the economy is open. Let me break it down for you.
High prices?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. The economy is growing. What happens is this. VAT is what they call a consumption tax, meaning when you spend money, you pay VAT. That's consume, meaning you consume goods or you consume services. Consume meaning you buy. Because the economy, remember now, our economy has virtually closed for 18 months. The economy is opened back up. People are working. They're earning money. They're spending money. That means, that is why we can say our revenue is up. Unemployment is down. I mean, we're down from the heights of when everything was closed down. People are working. People are spending money. Now, when we said that we would reduce VAT from 12% to 10%, part of our reasoning was it would leave more money in people's pockets so that they'll have it to spend. All right, and which is what is happening. All right, it's not that what it is 10% is less than 12%. The fact that it's up is because there's more activity. All right. Now you raise an interesting point. You said prices are up. That is an element of it because, for example, if something used to cost $1, your VAT on it would be 10 cents. Now, if it costs $1.10, your VAT on it is 11 cents, 10%. Right. So that is an element of it with as prices go up. That is an element of it. But the biggest element is the economy is open. You walk around, you see, 6 cruise ships in the harbor. The airport is packed. Every flight is full. You can't get a room in the hotel. So the economy is moving. And that is what's really driving it. There is an element of inflation, but the biggest part of it is movement in the economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, for sharing with us and giving us that update. I always use as a fun analogy, that you're in tough times when you pass the drive-throughs, the fast food restaurants, and you see no one's there, then people are conserving. But as we can see, you drive past all of these fast food restaurants, you drive past people, the line's out, people are still spending. And so it's a sign that they still have money in their pockets that they can spend on things that we don't consider to be essential. They're still spending. So that's a good thing on it. Thank you, Minister Alcides, and we're happy to hear of the significant progress that you and your ministry and your team are making with the country's finances. I'm going to give you a couple of announcements this morning from Prime Minister and then take your questions right after that. You'd have heard that he attended the CRAFT conference, that's the Caribbean Renewable Energy Forum in Miami, Florida, where he spoke yesterday. Prime Minister address those delegates there in Miami, Florida. The Prime Minister continued his campaign to keep the issue of climate change and its impact in the region at the forefront. Prime Minister Davis told delegates there the region must stand together to be advocates for accelerated change. Prime Minister also referenced the upcoming hurricane season and the lingering impact of Hurricane Dorian, explaining that we now know too much about the pace of climate change to believe that this was a once-in-a-generation storm. In other words, he's saying that the region must better prepare, that this could possibly be the norm, and we can see strong storms like Dorian again, and to put in place a mechanism to be able to get our countries and our people through these kinds of storms should they re-engage our region again. And as you can see, the Prime Minister is fast becoming the spokesperson on climate change in the region, and we're happy that this conference, which normally attracts another leader of a country in the Caribbean, for the first time diverted from that speaker and invited Prime Minister Davis to speak on this area. And that's the kind of response we're getting worldwide and regionally on climate change for Prime Minister. Also this week, U.S. Congresswoman Maxine Waters would have paid a courtesy call on Prime Minister Davis this week at the office of the Prime Minister. Following a gift exchange, the two discussed issues including those related to the financial sector and cryptocurrency industry, carbon markets, climate change, and gun reform that could reduce gun violence in both countries. We believe it's important to have that discussion with the United States of America, who is a close ally of ours, and to talk about what's happening, particularly since a lot of what we see, the importation and smuggling of illegal arms, are coming through the United States, and how we can address these issues in the fight against crime. Also, earlier this week, you would have known Prime Minister Davis broke ground on the new FTX headquarters. It is the world's second largest cryptocurrency exchange. The new headquarters, based in Western New Providence, will utilize nearly 5 acres of land, and the property would also include a 38-room boutique hotel and commercial building. The Prime Minister Davis thanked the founder Sam Bankman-Fried and CEO Ryan Salman for making their home in the Bahamas. Exciting days are ahead for that. A couple of days later, you'd have seen him opening the historic FTX SALT conference at Bahamas, which is being followed by millions worldwide. It is set to position the Bahamas as a world leader and headquarters for cryptocurrency. This new industry is expected to provide new streams of revenue for the country. You've heard the Minister of Economic Affairs talk about the improved outlook. Imagine when we infuse this new stream of revenue from cryptocurrency as well as from carbon credits into the economy, the significant boost it will give to the economy. So all eyes are looking to see how these new streams of revenue will obviously revolutionize our country's economy, as this is new streams that we're introducing, and a first in decades of governance for the country. And we're happy that the Davis administration is looking keenly on developing new streams. You heard us talk about the facts of taxation and having only taxes to depend on. Well, this is another avenue to be able to generate streams of income for the Bahamas, not only for Bahamians, but also those who work in the industry, but also to the economy from the funds that are derived by these sectors. So pretty exciting days ahead. Last evening, Prime Minister Davis had the opportunity to meet with former U.S. President Bill Clinton, who's in town for the FTX SALT conference in Bahamas. As you know, Bill Clinton Foundation has been instrumental in the fight against HIV and AIDS here in the Bahamas for many years. The meeting was candid. He is a friend of the Bahamas. Both men discussed the work the foundation has been doing. They were able to speak to the family of Dr. Perry Gomez, as President Clinton hailed and noted him as an outstanding partner and leader of the work here in the Bahamas. The Clinton Foundation's efforts continue. They're in Abaco following Dorian. As recovery continues, they're working there, putting in place some renewable forms of energy, alternative forms of energy, solar sites, various houses and buildings there. Their work continues. President Clinton also engaged the Prime Minister on climate change matters, welcoming the Prime Minister Davis and his leading voice in this particular space, and pledging his support to continue to work with Prime Minister on climate change matters now that he has become such a leading voice in the arena. And also, finally, Prime Minister Davis is scheduled to meet this afternoon with U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris. The meeting will take place virtually and will include other CARICOM heads. On the agenda will be matters affecting the region. Those include security, economic recovery after COVID-19, and climate change. Prime Minister Davis will speak on behalf of the region and the Bahamas on security issues and those discussions, as the Bahamas is seen as a leader pretty much in all of those areas we discussed. But he will speak specifically to security in the region. That meeting takes place virtually later this afternoon. And those are Prime Minister's announcements. Let's take any other questions you may have before we move on. Let's begin with Leandra Roll from the Tribune. Hi, Leandra.
Hey, Clint. I guess my question is, I know it's been several weeks has passed since the royal visit. Any idea of the cost is yet of the trip? I know last time we would have asked. I think it was still being calculated, so I just asking for an update.
You're probably going to say, I sound like a scorch record. Nothing yet. We've been asking, but I think we'll put a little more intervention now. It's been, since we last spoke, we've been moving back and forth with engagement with the Prime Minister in country and out of country, and so I haven't been able to follow up. I'm going to do that for you. Our team will get on that, and I think we'll have that to you before the press conference next week. I think we'll just disseminate it to the press, so you don't have to wait another week for that. I'll get that for you, though. All right. Fern carries that in us. Hi, Fern.
Ms. Clinton, I'm just curious, I want a bit more clarity on that meeting that the Prime Minister will have later with Kamala Harris, focusing on security in the region. Will that also include like illegal immigration? Just provide a bit more clarity on what that will include.
Sure. They're talking about, obviously, the economic recovery. They want to find out how countries in the Caribbean are recovering following the pandemic, what pace they're recovering at, what are the challenges. They'll talk about that. They're also going to talk about climate change, which is important. Mia Mottley and several other prime ministers will talk about climate change in the region and how we're handling that and how we're handling being able to... The biggest issue regional countries face is financing as a result of climate change, hurricane storms, mudslides, any kind of environmental issue. And the challenge is being able to always bounce back from these incidences and financing. A huge part of the debt in the Caribbean region is directly linked to natural disasters. And so how are we able to either forgive debt, how are we able to finance debt, and keep countries on footing? Without these issues, many of the Caribbean countries will be able to do well financially. But as you can imagine, look at the Bahamas, billions of dollars in debt just linked to one storm. So talking about that, how to handle climate change issues, what's being done by the world on the countries, because Caribbean countries aren't the polluters, aren't the ones contributing to a lot of the issues in climate change. So how do we get the world to pay its way so that Caribbean countries can find its way through these issues and its people be safe? When we talk about security issues, it's always a concern for the United States. As you can imagine, us being their closest neighbor and ally, how do we address security issues? What are the issues in the region as far as smuggling, human smuggling, as far as drug trafficking, as far as crime even in country? What measures are we playing? The Bahamas and the United States have had very strong links with OPBAT and several other operations that we've formed together to fight together, right? Because what affects our borders obviously affects their borders. And so talking about what other partnerships can be derived to address security issues, what other resources are needed to handle security issues, what are some of the challenges with being able to secure not just the Bahamas, but the region, and how the United States can play a role in that. So that's kind of what the discussion will take place as far as how they can play a better role in addressing the issues that are arising out of security in the region. All right, let's go to Jasmine Brown, our news. Hey, Jasmine.
Hi, Clint. Wanted to ask about Congresswoman Waters. It's been widely reported in the U.S. press that she is positive for COVID and is in isolation. Wanted to know if the Office of the Prime Minister is aware of that, and if, since finding out, what has been the measures in place? Because the Prime Minister traveled as well.
Correct. We were aware. Prime Minister has tested since then twice. He has also done a PCR test. All have come back negative. Let's go to Theo Celia, Eyewitness News. Hi, Theo.
Morning, Clint. As it relates to the digital assets industry, I know government has a lot of forward movement in terms of regularizing the industry to make revenue from it, but there are Bahamians who are interested on what is government's position on making sure that Bahamians can be involved in that. Right now, if a Bahamian wants to, trade with digital assets, they have to have an American bank account to do so. So what is this administration's standpoint on widening the scope of that industry so that the average Bahamian can also participate in revenue being gained from cryptocurrency?
A couple of things are happening, and I'm proud to announce that there are Bahamian companies who are now starting up in this industry. We met two of them at the conference who had booths set up, and so it was exciting. And we're going to profile those to the Bahamian people so they know about them and know their whereabouts. But Bahamians are studying this. And I think another thing we want to do is what I call the educational side of it, right? And that is encourage more Bahamians, provide opportunity for more Bahamians to study this. When you recognize there is a new industry that has potential that this industry has, I would be telling all of our high school students, you may want to move away from the traditional careers and go into this. This is a major opportunity for the Bahamas. It's going to be headquarters here. You see FTX is building a headquarters here. They're going to be looking for Bahamians. They want to engage Bahamians. They have already working on their team. And so I encourage Bahamians, first of all, to get to know the industry, perhaps study the industry, get certified in the industry, so that you can make yourself available for opportunities in the industry. As for trading, we're going to be doing more on that. We're working with all of our regulators and our stakeholders here locally to find out how Bahamians can have access, because the Davis administration has been very clear that no new industry will be derived in this country that exempts Bahamians. It's going to include Bahamians. It's a big part of it. But obviously, we need Bahamians to make themselves ready for it and to listen to the opportunities that will be available, because that is on the agenda as well. You're welcome. Is Royston? No, I didn't say Royston. Okay, so Tyler Simonet, JCN. No, Leah's here. Hi, Leah. Hi, Leah.
Yesterday, the Prime Minister would have said that the government intends to replace their fleet with electric cars. The Minister of Works and Utilities also would have said that they also intend to build up solar-powered stations, charging stations. Any idea how much that's going to cost, or are you able to find out?
I don't know the Minister of Economic Affairs. They're costing? No costing yet on it. It's in the preliminary stages. We're talking to the people. As far as with the electric fleet of cars, we're talking to people in the industry about being able to secure a bulk amount and how that's going to happen. Obviously, before you can do that, like you said, you have to have the stations for charging them readily available. And so that's being discussed first about making it. But the discussions are being enhanced. And as we get to the next level, we'll talk more about what it could possibly cost. There is a significant amount of savings. As you can imagine with fuel, you won't need fuel anymore. There are some cars now that are in government's fleet that are electric, and they're seeing the savings with fuel. We have a few of them here, as you know, because Prime Minister is pushing climate change around the world and the region. We figured it's important to start it here at OPM. So a number of OPM vehicles are electrical with the charging station here as well. And so it's already begun. The transformation has begun. But as we progress further, we'll keep you abreast of it. We're talking, trying to find out how it can be done on a larger scale and what are all the things necessary for it, and putting prices to it. But we know that the savings will be significant on it. But we'll keep you abreast as we develop on that. Okay. No one's here from National Guardian. Okay, so global. Shelley. Hi, Shelley.
Hi, Clint. The minister answered my question with regards to the regulation, but I think when we were met last, you had said that there was a committee or some agents being formed to monitor the regulation of these prices in the store. My main concern is consumer.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up again. I wanted to add to that. I think it is, like the minister says, a balancing act, right? Because stores have to be able to survive. And we want these stores to survive because they employ people. And we don't want them to have to start saying, okay, things are tough, we're going to lay off. We want them to survive. So it's a balancing act to make sure stores are able to still operate. And you don't want to be so... While our focus is consumers, we also remember consumers are also store owners who work in this country and employ people in this country. And so it's a balancing act to make sure that we don't want anybody in business and operating at a loss, right? So it's a balancing act. But what we can do is ensure that there are watchdogs there to make sure that people aren't just trying to profit on people in this time and take advantage, I think is a better word, of people in this season. That's what has to happen. Now, there can be a lot more movement on that as far as with the committee getting out there. They're working to do it. They were newly formed. They're established, a price control commission, of course. Their concern has been needing more arms to go out there and cover such a wide area. And that's always a challenge. So the pressure's on them. I can't tell you enough. Prime Minister continuously puts pressure on the Price Control Commission to let's get out there. Let's make sure Bahamians are protected during this time until we're able to put in place even more meaningful measures that they can feel. Let's make sure no one is taking advantage of our people. And that's something he's committed to, so that's something you can see happening. It's not happening fast enough. I'll be the first to admit that. But we're going to keep the pressure on until we see it, until Bahamians feel comfortable that there's people out there who are watching and observing. And I always tell people, if you know of something that's happening untoward, please call the Price Commission and let them know so that if they don't see it, you can alert them to it, and we can get some change happening. But it's a very serious concern, and one that Prime Minister Davis is committed to ensuring. He's always concerned about people and how their pockets are feeling and pockets are spending. But I encourage people, let's be prudent in what we do, right? Because we can't say we want relief, but we're spending lavishly. And Bahamians, us, we're going to survive, but sometimes we survive in certain environments when we could save. It's important for it to be a partner. It can't just be, what is the government going to do? What is the government going to do? Everyone has to play a part in this. And that means while the government is obligated to find measures to bring relief to its people ought to also be prudent in their spending. So we work together on this and partnership. But you're very correct, because there are some people who just trying to do the basics, just trying to buy the basics to survive. And we have to look out for those people. And we're committed to ensuring that they're going to be looked after.
Any update on the RISE?
RISE is moving forward. They had several meetings this week and last week to discuss the program, putting a team in place to be able to administer the program. And so we're going to soon have the Minister of Social Services here to talk about the progress that they're making. They had several successful meetings this week regarding RISE, and I'm excited to say we're close. We're close. So we'll have them here soon to talk about where they are with that. Okay. Any other questions? Great. Let's move. I'm going to bring into this conversation now an industry that since the pandemic has suffered significantly. And a lot of times we don't see it as important, particularly if it ain't something that you're interested in doing. But they have suffered because of all of the lockdowns and the restrictions. And we're now pleased to say they're on the rebound and they're reopening. And we're talking about the bridal industry. And many of you don't recognize that a lot of the lockdowns did not include relief to them. They had to remain closed. They had to remain out of operation, almost so that we almost lost this industry. But they are rebounding. We all know about the bridal show, which is one of the biggest signs of success that the bridal industry is coming back. I want to call Makiva Wallace-Stubbs. Where's Makiva? I want to call her. I think she's right outside the door. Can you get her, please? I want her to come and talk about this upcoming event and the fact that this signals that the bridal industry is coming back even after we almost lost them in this pandemic. So come, Makiva, and talk to us about the upcoming event and the fact that although we almost lost the bridal industry, it is coming back. Come, Makiva.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you, my name is Makiva Wallace, and I do represent the annual Bahamas Bridal Show, which is sponsored by Buttons Bridal and Formal Wear. The show was started in 1990 by one of the most talented persons I know, and that person would be Mr. Tommy Stubbs. The show was created in 1990 to help brides and grooms shop at home for all of their wedding needs as opposed to traveling abroad. And in doing that, it also created areas in which local vendors would be able to get business from the wedding industry. And when the show started with only 18 vendors. And to now, 32 shows later, we are actually over 50 vendors every year. So that just goes to show how big the bridal industry is, with every year when you can bring almost 60 vendors under one roof on a single day to show the Bahamas what we can do. The ballroom is decorated wall to wall, and those vendors are always excited to offer discounts, wedding etiquette, and help brides and grooms plan a successful event. When COVID hit in 2020, the Bahamas Bridal Show was 1 week away from happening. And of course, it was a sold out show. There was no more room for vendors. The tickets were almost sold out, and we were just ready to go. It was our last rehearsal on that Sunday, and that evening, the Prime Minister made the announcement that the former Prime Minister made the announcement that we were shutting down. So it was a blow to us. And ever since then, I mean, some of you would have seen me on the social media platforms just begging for our wedding industry to have any sort of help. When the country started to open, all of our cries went on deaf ear for some type of relief to our wedding industry. And so we are very excited that this year we actually get to have the show again. This is our 32nd show, and never since 1990 we have had to postpone a show until 2020. So to have the opportunity to have the show again, everyone is real excited about that. The downside to that is a lot of the businesses that was in the show in 2020, most of them, well, a lot of them aren't returning, and that's because they weren't able to withstand the blow that they got during the shutdown. So the ones that are returning and the new ones that are coming, we are appealing to the public at large to just please come to the show, not only in support of Buttons Formal Wear, but in support of the many vendors that need help in reviving their business. So we implore you to please come and support the show. We are always ready to help with anything, with weddings, with any type of special event. That's what the Bahamas Bridal Show does. We offer not just stuff for weddings, but people come to market their business, whether you want a home, you want to go to a day spa, anything that has to do with businesses. They come to the trade show to feature what they want to provide. So at the show, you'll see a trade show, fashion show. We play games. I'm sure many of you have seen it on the local TV stations. So we're happy to have the show again. The show is going to be held on Sunday, May 29th at 2 p.m. at the Grand Hyatt. The ticket outlets are going to be Buttons Formal Wear, which is in Cable Beach. There is only one Buttons Formal Wear in Cable Beach. Also, tickets will be sold at Template, which is on Jerome Avenue, and online at Suncash. And all previously bought tickets for the 2020 show will be honored. So if you do have tickets, you can contact us and we will let you know how we will honor those tickets for you. And because it's been such a lull in the last 2 years, we have added several features to the show, which is our pre-bridal show event, which is almost like a mini bridal show. And it's going to be at Fusion Superplex. Our very good friends at Fusion have been more than gracious to allow us to have these events coming up at Fusion. So we're very grateful to Mr. Carlos Folks and his team. And that's going to be held on May 14th. And the after party, after the show on May 29th is also going to be held at Fusion. So after a long day of walking around and visiting vendors and winning prizes, you'll be able to come and have fun with us as we have dinner and wine. So there it is. Thank you so very much. And I look forward to seeing all of you on May 29th to cover the show at Grand Hyatt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Makiva. And congratulations to you on this, and we wish all of the businesses in the bridal industry every success in this regard. Obviously, our segment now, where we highlight Bahamian businesses, Bahamian food businesses, it is the one segment that every member of the media look forward to enjoying every day, and we're so happy to have two particularly interesting vendors. The first is the Bush Cook. I'm sure all of y'all know about the Bush Cook. They got their whole team here today in their DBC shirts. Mr. Corey Small, the proprietor of that, is coming to talk to us about the Bush Cook, and he'll be followed by Ms. Kimberly Munro of Kathy's Bakery, Bahamas. Our vendors for today. Corey?
Good day, everyone. Good morning. Just a brief introduction of myself and the Bush Cook. Of course, I'm Chef Corey Small. I'm delighted to be here today at the Office of the Prime Minister to showcase the Bush Cook, a local takeout restaurant who have navigated the ups and downs on the economy. Major changes during the pandemic and regular highs and lows of the business in the Bahamas. One thing the Bush Cook is known for is its creativity, approach to food, and marketing. Myself and our culinary team, who's here with us today, whip up delicious meals, and my wife, who's absent, the Asante creativity, leading our promotion. We love and appreciate the support we receive over the years, and we're excited in our future within. The secret ingredient to our success are our flavors our faith, and our resilience. Being in the business in the Bahamas is not for the weak, and opportunities such as this to showcase and promote ourselves makes a world of difference, along with access to funding, and the Salkitas, trading, and ongoing opportunities. I hope the PM and the media enjoy the Brave Burger, the Brave Sliders, our tropical salad, chicken Dubai tacos, our bacon and cheese, truffle mac and cheese, beef tacos. We are open Monday to Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And welcome to Bushcook to enjoy. Any questions? Good, good.
Any questions, Corey? Good. Let's go. Come on up, Cam.
Good morning. I'll be honest, I'm nervous. But I'm just so delighted to be here because this is truly an honor and a great opportunity, not only for myself, but for my family, because Kathy's Bakery came about many years ago before I was born. My grandmother brought our pound cakes to, forefront, and when she passed, it just, no one ever decided to continue on with the bakery. And as I grew older with my passion for baking, I decided to, resurrect that. And I am so grateful and so honored to be able to showcase our pastries at the Office of the Prime Minister. I started the bakery during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic in 2020 when all us was Brooklyn. But when you lose your job and you ain't got nothing left to do, the only thing you could do is depend on the gift God has placed in your hands. And because I knew God gave me the gift of baking, I decided to utilize that. And he said, if you utilize your gift, I will bring you before a great man. And today is a prime example that because I decided to utilize my gift, God decided to find favor with me to be invited to the Office of the Prime Minister. So today I wish to say I am so happy and honored to allow you to try our cakes. Our main cakes are the pound cakes. We specialize in homemade pound cakes made completely from scratch. We have here our coconut tart pound cake, our guava pound cake, our rum pound cake, and our original, I put rum in it, Clint. And of course, I'm also known for making really good breads. So I have Nutella bread, I have garlic, herb, and cheese bread. I also have pineapple stuffed bread. And what other bread I got over there? Another bread. Y'all can try it. But Kathy's Bakery, we are located in Marathon, and we're open from Monday through Saturday, and I also offer baking classes for persons who wants to learn how to bake bread. I teach you how to make homemade Bahamian bread from scratch the old way like Grandma used to do it, to go with the Milo and the tea. Okay? So those of you that can, please stop by the table afterwards to try our pastry. I know they come, especially for the rum cake. But I appreciate this opportunity, and I look forward to possibly doing business with all of you today. Thank you so much for having me.
Again, we encourage all of you, particularly those watching, please support Bahamian food businesses. All of the vendors that we've had since we've started this are exceptional. And I keep saying to myself, if we have all of these companies in this country, why are we eating from foreign people unless you want to? We can do it right here, and let's support all of our vendors today. That's our press conference. If you know how to reach us here at the press office, at the Office of the Prime Minister, we're here to answer all of your needs, colleagues, and of course, those who have questions. That's our press conference. Please have a safe day. Let's eat. Bon appetit.